You ever have one of those moments where someone says something so absurd that your brain just short circuits for a second? Like, I'm standing there trying to process what I just heard, and all I can think is, no way. No damning way. Well, that was me last Friday night when James looked me dead in the eye and said, I can make you finish without touching you. Now, if you don't know me, I'm pretty straightforward. I don't fall for smooth talkers or pickup lines, and I'm definitely not the kind of guy who buys into weird challenges. But James? He's got this confidence that's not tooly or flashy. It's just there, quiet but undeniable. We met a few weeks ago at this dive bar downtown, the Rusty Anchor, where I usually go to drown out the week with cheap beer and bad live music. James was sitting alone at the bar, nursing a whiskey neat, and he had this kind of magnetic calm that made me want to sit next to him, even though I'm usually the shy guy in these situations. We started talking, just casual stuff at first, nothing heavy. Turns out he's a yoga instructor, which explains the Zen vibe, and he's into all sorts of weird mind-body stuff that honestly sounded a little out there when he started explaining it. But then the conversation got weird, in a good way. He told me about this technique, something about breathing and mental focus, and how he could control sensations just by guiding your mind. And then he said it, like it was no big deal. I can make you finish without touching you. I laughed it off, thinking he was joking or just trying to mess with me. But there was no smirk, no punchline. He was serious, challenging me almost. And honestly, I was curious, not because I wanted to be proved wrong or anything, but because there was something about the way he said it that made me want to see if he could pull it off. So here I am, sitting back on his sagging couch in his tiny apartment that smells like sandalwood and old books, wondering how the hell I let this happen. He's already started explaining the basics, something about breathing, energy flow, and focusing on the moment, like a meditation, but with a very specific goal. I'm trying to keep an open mind, but the skeptic in me is running full speed with doubts. But then he looks at me with this calm, steady gaze, and I realize this isn't just a game for him. There's something real here, something that's about to change the way I think about pleasure and connection. And honestly, I have no idea where this is going to end up, but I'm too intrigued to back out now. So I take a deep breath and say, okay, James, prove it. James nodded like I'd just accepted some secret challenge he'd been waiting for. Good, he said, voice low but steady. Because this isn't just about what your body can do. It's about what your mind can do. He gestured for me to sit down on the rug in front of him. The apartment was small but cozy, walls lined with bookshelves, crammed with everything from anatomy manuals to obscure spiritual texts. The dim light was coming from a single lamp in the corner. Warm, not harsh. It felt like I'd stepped into some kind of meditation cave rather than a guy's apartment in the city. All right, first thing. James said, you need to breathe with me. Deep, slow breaths, in through your nose, out through your mouth. Trust me, this isn't about performance. It's about presence. I rolled my eyes internally but gave it a shot, trying to match his rhythm. The air felt thicker somehow, like the oxygen was charged. I could see his chest rising and falling, his eyes closed, calm. I'd never done anything like this before, but weirdly, it didn't feel awkward. Good, James said after a few minutes. Now focus on the space between us. Not just the distance, but the energy. You can feel it, right? I blinked, because honestly, I wasn't sure. I mean, I was aware of sitting here, breathing, in this quiet room with him. There was some kind of tension. Yeah, the kind that always hangs between two guys when things could go either way. But energy? That sounded like one of those new agey things I never got. He opened his eyes and smiled softly. It's subtle at first, but that tingling you get when you're excited or nervous, that's energy moving. I nodded hesitantly. Okay, but how does that turn into, the finish? James chuckled. Patience. It's about directing that energy, guiding it through your body. You in? I was honestly fascinated now, even if part of me wanted to call bullshit. Sure. What do I do? He moved closer, not touching me, just close enough that I could feel his presence. Keep breathing with me. Imagine the energy as a wave building in your chest. Don't think about it too hard. Feel it. Let it grow. I closed my eyes, focusing on my breath, trying to let go of my usual racing thoughts. At first, it was just the sound of him breathing, the quiet hum of the city outside the window, and my own heartbeat. But then, slowly, I started noticing something. A warmth spreading from my chest down through my torso. Subtle, like the sun creeping over your skin on a cold morning. I opened my eyes, and James was watching me, his expression calm but intense. "That's it," he said gently. "Now, bring your attention to your hips, your thighs. Let the wave move." I'm not gonna lie, this was trippy. I've always been a pretty tactile guy. I need touch to get turned on, so this felt like trying to start a fire with wet wood. But as I concentrated on the sensation spreading, I swear it got stronger, more electric. My skin felt alive, every nerve a little more awake. "Now," James whispered, "don't fight it. Let it happen. You're safe here." There was something about the way he said that. Like he really meant it. Like this wasn't just an experiment for him either. A few minutes passed, felt like forever, and then I realized my breath was shallow, my chest tighter. My heart was pounding, but there was no actual touching. No hands, no mouth, nothing but this quiet room, and James's voice guiding me through it. I looked at him, half expecting a smirk or a joke, but he was serious, watching me like he was seeing something no one else had before. And then, suddenly, it hit me. A rush of warmth, sharp and consuming, like nothing I'd ever experienced without actual physical contact. My body trembled slightly and I gasped, clutching at the floor, my mind spinning. "Holy shit," I managed to say, eyes wide. James just smiled, this soft, proud smile. "See? Told you I could." I sat there for a moment, trying to catch my breath, staring at him like he was some kind of magician. "Okay, I'm impressed," I admitted, shaking my head in disbelief. "That was insane." He shrugged, casual but pleased. "It's all about mind and intention, man. Pleasure isn't just skin deep." I laughed, the tension breaking, but something had shifted. Suddenly, I wasn't just here to be proved wrong. I wanted to know more about this, about him, and maybe about what else was possible when you stopped relying on the usual stuff. James reached out and finally touched my hand lightly. It was electric in a different way, more grounded, more real. "You ready to see what else we can do?" I swallowed hard, feeling a grin spreading across my face. Yeah, I'm ready." His hand resting lightly on mine felt like an anchor, something solid in the midst of the strange, exhilarating stuff we'd just been through. I wasn't used to this kind of intimacy, least of all with someone I barely knew, and yet, right then, it felt natural, like I'd stumbled into a new rhythm I never knew I was missing. James gave me a slow smile. "All right, now that you've got the basics, let's take it a step further. You ready to let go a little more?" I hesitated, heart thudding in this weird mix of nerves and excitement. "Yeah, I think so. What's next?" He stood up and stretched, like he was getting ready for something. "We're gonna try something different. Eyes closed this time. I want you to focus entirely on my voice and your body, but no distractions. No thinking about what's next, just being." I swallowed. "Okay, no distractions. Got it." He dimmed the lamp a bit more, plunging the room into a half-light that somehow made everything feel more intimate, more private. James settled back down on the rug, patting the space next to him. "Come here." I moved closer, sitting beside him, knees almost touching. I could smell his cologne, earthy, subtle, mingled with the sandalwood incense burning quietly in the corner. The room felt suspended in time, like the rest of the world had melted away. "Close your eyes," he said softly. I obeyed, breathing in, trying to clear my head. He placed a hand lightly on my shoulder, just enough to ground me, not enough to actually touch in a way that would distract. His voice dropped to a near whisper. "Now, listen to me. I want you to imagine your body like a guitar, every nerve a string. The more you focus on each string, the more it vibrates." I pictured it, weird as it sounded. My nerves like guitar strings, waiting to be plucked, waiting to respond. "Start with your left hand," he continued. "Feel the tension, the heat, the potential. Don't touch. Just feel. I did, and the more I focused, the more real it became. The way heat pooled in my palm, the slight pulse beneath my skin. James guided me through different parts of my body, my neck, my chest, the small of my back, each time asking me to feel, to listen, to imagine the energy shifting and rising. The sensation started to build slowly but surely, like a wave swelling on a quiet shore, growing with every breath. "Let go of control," he said. "Don't fight it. Let the energy flow where it wants." I wanted to tell him I was no good at this, that I was the kind of guy who needed concrete, physical contact to get off. But the truth was, my body was already responding, even if my brain was still catching up. Then, out of nowhere, his voice softened more. "Imagine I'm playing this guitar with you, that we're creating the song together." That image made something click inside me. It wasn't just about what I was feeling alone. This was a collaboration, a shared experience. And suddenly, James wasn't just some guy with a weird trick. He was a partner in this strange new dance of sensation. My breath hitched. The heat built faster now, spreading through my body until I could hardly breathe without feeling that pulse, that vibration. My hands trembled on my knees. "Almost there," James murmured. "Stay with me." And then, like the snap of a string, it happened. A rush so intense it knocked the breath out of me. A wave of warmth and release that hit without warning and without touch. I gasped, clenching my fists against the floor, feeling every nerve sing. When it was over, my eyes flew open and I looked at James. He was watching me, smiling with this quiet, satisfied pride, like he'd just pulled off some magic trick. "Holy shit," I said, voice shaky. "I don't even know how to explain that." He laughed softly. "You don't have to. Just feel it." I swallowed, still riding the aftermath, and something shifted inside me. For the first time in a long time, I felt connected to my own body, to someone else, to this strange new way of experiencing pleasure. We sat like that for a while, the silence thick but comfortable. Then James finally broke it. "You're not like most people, you know. You're open to this, open to feeling in a way that's still new." I shrugged, still trying to catch my breath. "I'm open if it's real. And right now, this feels pretty damn real." He nodded, eyes glinting. "Good, because there's more. This isn't just some party trick. It's about connection. Trust." I looked at him, really looked, and for the first time, I saw the layers beneath his calm, the vulnerability tucked behind that quiet confidence. So, I said, half smiling, "What happens next?" James stretched out his hand again, this time inviting me to take it. We keep going, together. And somehow I knew I wasn't just signing up for a weird closeness experiment. I was stepping into something entirely different. Something deeper, and maybe even a little dangerous. But hell, I was ready. I took his hand without hesitation. His grip was warm, steady, not possessive, but grounding. Sitting there with his palm enveloping mine, I felt something shift again. A sort of quiet electricity threading between us. That wasn't just about what had just happened. It was something more subtle, more promising. James gave me a look, half amused, half serious. "I know this is all pretty out there, but I want to show you this isn't just about tricks or sensation. It's about slowing down, listening, trusting." I nodded, feeling a little breathless in more ways than one. "Yeah, I get it. Honestly, it's kind of blowing my mind." He smiled, soft and genuine. "Good, because I want to take you somewhere with this. Build on it." I glanced around his apartment again. Books, incense, the faint hum of the city outside. Everything felt charged, like the air was thick with possibility. I wasn't sure where this was going, but for the first time in a while, I wasn't afraid to find out. "Okay," I said, trying to sound casual but failing spectacularly. "What's next?" James grinned. "Let's change the scene a bit." He stood up and pulled open the curtains. The streetlights from outside spilled into the room, painting soft shadows on his walls. He motioned for me to follow into the kitchen, where a small table was set with candles and a couple of glasses of water. "Hydrate," he said, handing me a glass. We sat down across from each other, and the mood shifted from playful experiment to something a little more serious. James's eyes held mine, steady and unblinking. This time, he said, "I want you to focus on me. Not just my voice, but my presence. Feel the space I'm occupying, the energy I'm sending out. You ready?" I swallowed and nodded. "Yeah, I'm ready." He leaned in just a bit, close enough that I could make out the faint scent of sandalwood and something else. Maybe cedar? And his voice dropped into that soft murmur again. "Close your eyes," he whispered. I did, and immediately felt the weight of the room settle around me. The sounds faded, the distant hum of traffic, the faint creak of the building, and all that was left was his voice, calm and steady, guiding me back to my breath. "Breathe with me," he said. "In through your nose, out through your mouth. Let everything else fall away." I focused on the rhythm of my breathing, slow and deliberate. The world shrunk down until it was just me and James, two people sharing this suspended moment. "Now," he continued, "I want you to imagine your awareness as a light. Start small, in your chest, glowing gently." I pictured it like a soft flame flickering in the dark. "Good. Now, let that light spread through your body, filling your limbs, your head, your back. Feel it pulse with every breath." It was strange, this exercise, but not in a bad way. I felt more present than I had in a long time. The tension that usually knotted in my shoulders started to ease. James's voice softened again. "You're doing great. Now focus on the connection between us. Don't think about it. Just feel it." I wasn't sure what I was supposed to feel exactly, but as I concentrated, a warmth bloomed in my chest, like the light he'd asked me to imagine was real, radiating between us. "Good," he said. "Let that warmth build. Let it grow." I could feel my heartbeat speeding up, a nervous excitement mingling with comfort. It was like nothing I'd experienced before. Intimacy without touch, connection without words. Then James reached out, his fingertips brushing the back of my hand. It wasn't much, but it sent a shiver through me. The sensation was light but electric, like a spark jumping between us. "Trust me," he whispered. I did. I squeezed his hand, and suddenly everything felt sharper. The warmth, the energy, the way his eyes held mine like we were the only two people in the world. And then, without warning, the waves started building again. Not the same kind I'd felt before, but different. Deeper, more insistent. I bit my lip, trying to hold it back, but it was no use. The release hit me hard. My whole body hummed, every nerve ending alive. I gasped softly, clutching at the edge of the table. James stayed right there, eyes locked on mine, steady and unflinching. When it was over, he finally let go of my hand and reached for his glass of water. I leaned back, heart hammering, breath shaky but exhilarated. "How the hell do you do that?" He shrugged with a smirk. "It's not magic. It's connection. Focus. You just have to open yourself up to it." I shook my head, still amazed. "Man, this is damned up, in the best way." James laughed, warm and easy. "I'm glad you think so, because I want to keep exploring this with you." I looked at him, and for the first time, I realized I wasn't just curious about the technique anymore. I was curious about him. "So," I said, smiling, "what does exploring with you look like?" He leaned forward, his eyes darkening with something I couldn't quite name. "You'll see, but for now, just know this. There's more than one way to connect, more than one way to feel, and I want to show you all of them." I nodded, my chest tight with anticipation. I had no idea where this was going, but I was ready to find out, because something about James and what we'd just shared felt like the start of something real, something I didn't want to let go of. After that night, I was in this weird headspace I couldn't shake. I kept replaying the way James had led me through those moments, showing me how something as simple as breath and focus could shift everything. It wasn't just about the physical release, though that was part of it. It was about the way he made me feel safe, seen, like there was this whole other layer to connection that I'd been missing. We started texting pretty much every day. At first, it was small stuff. "How was your day?" Or "Try this breathing exercise while you're stuck in traffic." But somewhere between the casual and the quirky, there was this growing thread of something else, something deeper. One evening, a few days later, James invited me over again. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I was hoping it'd be more of the same. Those quiet, intense sessions that left me feeling like I'd been somewhere special. When I showed up, he greeted me with that familiar, calm smile, his apartment smelling again of sandalwood and something sweet I couldn't place. This time, though, there was a blanket draped over the couch and soft ambient music playing low in the background. It felt more intimate, less like a lesson and more like a shared space. "Hey," he said, gesturing for me to sit down. "Ready to take it further?" I nodded, settling in beside him. "Yeah, I am." He reached out and ran his fingers lightly over my wrist, just barely touching. The sensation sent a little spark through me. This time, I want to focus on touch, but in a way that's slower, more deliberate. We're going to see how much your body can feel when everything is amplified by awareness. I swallowed hard, both nervous and excited. The idea of touch was familiar territory, but James's approach made it feel new, like we were about to explore some uncharted map. He guided my hand to rest on his chest, right over his heartbeat. "Feel that? That's real. That's connection." I closed my eyes and let myself tune in. His heartbeat was steady, warm. I could feel it pulse beneath my palm, and in that moment, the world outside vanished. James's hand covered mine, fingers intertwining. Now imagine that connection growing, spreading between us. I felt a heat building in my chest, a kind of electricity that wasn't just physical but emotional too. My breathing became shallow, my skin prickling. He shifted closer, his voice low. "Trust me to guide you," I nodded, voice catching slightly. "I do." Our eyes met, and in that look there was an unspoken promise, something tender, something raw. It felt like we were both holding our breath, waiting for the next move, but neither wanting to rush. James's other hand moved slowly up my arm, not rushing, just tracing. Every inch of contact was heightened, amplified by the way he made me pay attention, made me feel every detail. I felt myself melting into it, the layers of tension in my body unraveling. This wasn't just touch. It was a conversation without words, a language built on sensation and trust. "Tell me what you feel," James whispered. I bit my lip, trying to put it into words. Like I'm waking up. Like every nerve is alive, but not overwhelmed. He smiled softly. "Good. That's what I want." As his hand moved to my neck, gentle and sure, I felt the heat deepen. The way he touched wasn't about rushing or pressure. It was deliberate, respectful, and somehow more intimate than anything I'd experienced before. My breath hitched, and I felt that surge building again. But this time, it was wrapped in warmth, in closeness. James leaned in, his forehead resting against mine. "No need to hide it," he murmured. "Let it come." And I did. The release was slower this time, more rolling, like waves breaking on a shore. My body trembled, but it wasn't just pleasure. It was connection, trust, something unspoken between us. When it was over, we stayed like that, foreheads touching, breaths mingling. "I didn't know it could feel like this," I admitted quietly. James pulled back just enough to look at me. Neither did I, until I found someone willing to explore it with me. There was a beat of silence. Then he asked, "So what do you want now?" I smiled, feeling something fierce and honest rising up inside me. "I want to see where this goes. I want to keep learning. With you." He reached out and tucked a stray hair behind my ear, a familiar, tender gesture that made something twist in my chest. "Good," he said simply. "Because this is just the beginning." After that night, things between James and me shifted in ways I hadn't anticipated. It wasn't like a sudden explosion of romance or some dramatic declaration, but more of an unfolding, a slow, steady pull towards something real and grounded. Our conversations grew deeper, the silences more comfortable, and those moments where his hand found mine felt less like an experiment and more like a quiet promise. One Saturday afternoon, a couple of weeks later, James texted me out of the blue, "Meet me at the park near the river. Bring an open mind." I had to laugh. That was so James, always mysterious, always wanting to turn the ordinary into something a little extraordinary. I wasn't sure what to expect, but curiosity won. When I got there, the sun was warm but mellow, dappling through the leaves of the tall trees lining the path. James was already waiting by a bench, looking calm and relaxed, wearing a simple gray t-shirt and those same worn jeans I'd come to recognize. "Hey," he said, standing to greet me with a small smile. "Hey," I replied, feeling that familiar flutter in my chest. He gestured toward the bench. "Let's sit." We settled side by side, the river flowing quietly behind us. The city noise was distant here, replaced by bird song and the gentle rush of water. It was peaceful. James looked over at me, eyes shining with that calm intensity. Today's about grounding, bringing that energy we've been working on into the world outside these walls. I raised an eyebrow. Grounding? Sounds fancy. He laughed softly. It's simple, really. Feeling connected to your body, to the earth beneath you, to the present moment. We sat in silence for a few breaths, the sun warming my skin, the cool breeze playing through the trees. I tried to tune into that feeling James talked about, the way my body sat against the bench, the rhythm of my breath, the pulse of my heartbeat. "Now," he said, "close your eyes." I did, and for a moment the world shrank. No distractions, no noise, just the steady beat inside me and the warm sun above. "Imagine roots growing from your feet," James said quietly, "deep into the earth, strong, steady. Feel yourself anchored." It was a strange image, but vivid. I pictured myself like a tree, grounded and real. "Good," he said. "Now open your heart to the moment. No judgment, no expectations." When I opened my eyes, James was watching me, his expression soft but serious. "Ready to try something?" I nodded, heart speeding up. He reached out, fingers grazing mine with that familiar lightness, and smiled. "This time, it's about trust. I'm going to guide your energy, and you're going to let go." We closed our eyes together, hands clasped. I focused on the connection, the warmth of his skin, the steady pressure of his grip. His voice dropped to that soothing murmur I'd come to crave. "Breathe with me," he said. "Feel the energy between us, flowing like the river behind us." I could almost see it, a shimmering thread of light connecting our hands, pulsing with each inhale and exhale. "Let it rise," he whispered. "Let it move through your body, unbidden." A warmth bloomed in my chest, spreading outward. This time, it wasn't just excitement, it was something deeper. A calm wave building beneath the surface, steady and insistent. I bit my lip as the sensation grew, a low humming that traveled from my fingertips up my arms, settling into my core. James's thumb traced lazy circles on my hand, grounding me without overwhelming. The release came slowly, like a tide pulling back and then crashing forward again, soft but powerful. My body trembled, a shudder rippling through me as I exhaled with a quiet gasp. When I opened my eyes, James was watching me, his smile warm and approving. "See?" he said. "Connection isn't just skin deep. It's about presence, awareness." I nodded, still catching my breath. "You're really something else, James." He shrugged playfully. "I'm just glad you're letting me in." The words hit me in a way I didn't expect. Letting him in wasn't always easy. I'd been guarded most of my life, afraid to show the parts of me that felt vulnerable, especially to another guy. But with James, it felt different. Safe. We stayed there on the bench for a while, not saying much, just soaking in the quiet and the sun. Eventually, James leaned his head on my shoulder, and I felt that familiar spark of warmth spread through my chest. It wasn't about rushing or forcing anything. It was about being together, fully present, trusting the moment to unfold on its own. As the afternoon gave way to evening, I realized something important. I wasn't just fascinated by his mind or the way he taught me to feel. I was drawn to him, the whole person, the calm behind his eyes, the kindness in his touch, the quiet strength that held me steady. And maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something I'd been waiting for without even knowing it. That evening at the park stayed with me for days. Sitting there next to James, feeling the sun fade and the quiet stretch between us, I realized how much I'd been craving this kind of connection. The kind that doesn't rush, doesn't need a big gesture, but simply exists in the shared space between two people. Over the next few weeks, we kept exploring, not just the breathing exercises or the energy stuff, although those remained a beautiful part of what we shared, but the everyday moments. Cooking dinner together, laughing at dumb jokes, walking through the city hand in hand without words. Those moments grounded me in ways I hadn't expected. One night, after a lazy Sunday brunch, we found ourselves back at his apartment, the space now feeling less like a mystery and more like home. We sat on the floor, knees touching, the soft hum of music playing in the background. James glanced at me, a quiet question in his eyes. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. I smiled softly, feeling a warmth spread through me. "I'm thinking that this, us, it feels real, like something I want to keep." He reached out, fingers threading through mine with that familiar, gentle certainty. Me too. We stayed like that for a while, no need for anything else. The breathless moments, the experiments, the challenges, all had led to this steady, comforting closeness. I realized then that what James had shown me wasn't just a new way to feel pleasure, it was a new way to feel connection. And that connection wasn't about magic or tricks, it was about trust, presence, and the simple courage to be seen. Looking into his eyes, I felt a calm I hadn't known I needed. No grand declarations, no fireworks, just two people quietly choosing each other. As the night deepened, James leaned in and kissed me softly, the kind of kiss that spoke of promises and patience. And in that moment, I knew I was exactly where I was supposed to be.